Not yet possible to come. This is a continuing thing. The other capitals of Europe in the future, Berlin next year, Paris after, Glasgow, etc., and Spain is also a candidate, will have continuing conversations of this type.
I was pleased that I was invited on this forum, and I'm sorry I cannot come, but I'm in the similar situation like Ludwig Vaculik. It means that I have no passport, and it's question if they are able to give it to me or not. But if they give it to me, there will be big danger that they, during my staying out of country, they stopped my citizenship and I couldn't come back. It is our law, it is possible to do it, and I cannot risk that they make exile from me, because I'm here home and I want to live here and continue in my work, and it is big risk. It is the reason why I cannot travel. And you asked me if I think if the situation will develop. I hope it will. I think that the history cannot stop in one moment and everything be forever without any changing. Yes, and I think that the new development in Soviet Union and the development of our society and its own problems and a lot of other aspects will influence the situation here, and that the general situation will be better. I'm sure. I don't know, of course, how quickly or slowly it will go. I don't know when the situation will be in visible way better, but I think that sometimes it must be changed. And concretely about this forum, I think that it is a very good idea. I support it very much because our continent is divided, and everything what we do against this division we do for us all. Yes. And I'm sorry that I cannot concretely participate on this work, because if I cannot travel in my situation when I'm isolated of all structures here and I have no possibilities legally to do something, I'm not much effective collaborator of such project. Yes.
Herr Konrad, darf ich Sie bitten, Ihre Ansprache, Entwurf eines mitteleuropäischen Selbstbildnisses, zu beginnen.
Die Reflexion, also die Objektivität gegenüber uns selbst, wird hier und dann durch jenes schreckliche kollektive und individuelle Selbstmitleid behindert. Uns habe man überall mitgespielt. So wissen wir auf vielerlei Art und einhellig zu berichten, und tatsächlich, uns hat man überall mitgespielt. Was soll man dazu sagen? Dem einen ist die Geschichte gewogen, dem anderen nicht. Instinktiv empfinden die Glücklicheren für die Wir sind keine Völker der Weltgeschichte. Niemals brüsten wir uns mit unserer Macht und Mächtigkeit. Vor uns hat man im Allgemeinen keine Angst. Unsere Ländereien sind nicht allzu großräumig. Unsere Seele ist nicht so breit. Unser Verstand vermag auch die westliche Ratio zu fassen. Und mit diesem unserem auch im Westen im Umlauf gebrachten Verstand kritisieren wir unsere vom Osten bestimmten Verhältnisse. Mit westlichem Spott die östliche Trägheit. Hier kann man lernen, wie westliche und östliche Mentalität in ein und demselben Kopf, in ein und demselben Bett miteinander ringen.
Nee, ik blijf in principe aan deze kant en jij in principe aan die kant. Ja. Dus dat van... Ja, hoe ga jij dan bespreken? Heb je dat
The Congress will have the form of a round-table conference to allow the participants the greatest possible freedom to exchange ideas. The European Artist Forum has its origin in earlier congresses where artists discussed their responsibilities towards politics.
A meeting like this we hadn't had before, and we hope we can go on. It will be very difficult. We did give some, because you asked questions, some examples with Czechoslovakia, perhaps. That's not the only. Some of them are shy to join. We need some time. And looking back 2 years ago in Budapest, artists and writers were invited by their governments to speak out, to make proposals. There was a lot of activity, also musicals between, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Afterwards, the politicians decided nothing. There was a veto, 2 vetoes. One coming from Romania, another from the United States. Everything was finished and forgotten. Nobody is speaking anymore about these proposals and very interesting ideas. This we have to know, going on like this. We have to nerve the Helsinki conference to go on in this way, to prepare another meeting with their possibilities, with artists and writers, and with more chance that it is not killed at the end by 1 waiter or by 2 waiters. This will be difficult enough.
The most terrible crime of a machine of bureaucracy, of terrible things who kill culture and personality, the most crime is that they forget about persons. And our Gulliver wants to see persons without organization, without this abstract, we want to think about human being, about not in general union writers, about Günter Grass, Hans Magnus Enzberger, and person to person. And this is most important, not in the cultural sphere, but in the political sphere in general, because it is not abstract human rights. It is rights and speaking about person.
I can sense a certain disappointment in the room about the result we are proposing, the result we are presenting to you, and I can understand this disappointment. But I think that there are few cases where very minor initiatives, in the long term, if they are tenaciously followed up, can lead to some result. What we are planning is certainly not a para-governmental organization. It is a private effort on the part of individual people, and we do not foresee any institutional connection with any of the existing political bodies which are around, because we have seen, part of the reason why we are here is exactly that we have seen how great institutional machines who started with a very great representational ambition came to very little. I won't say it came to nothing, but they produced a lot of papers and rhetoric, and they ended up in what I would call the UNESCO syndrome. Now, the UNESCO syndrome is that there's a huge building in Paris, and I once visited the cellar of this building, and this is full of photocopying machines where the same speeches are put out in 32 languages, and that is practically a self-digesting apparatus. So, I mean, I don't want to attack now UNESCO. All I want to say, this is a completely different sort of thing which we are thinking of. Also, to make it clear that it is not the aim of such an initiative, for example, to bring the Bulgarian National Ballet to Amsterdam, or to spread funds, to channel funds, to collect the greatest possible amount of money, and then to channel it, to give it to things of merit. I don't think that all this would be, first of all, beyond our means, and it is also not this simple fact of Václav Havel not being able to come here. I may tell you that at the same time when there was the official Helsinki conference session in Budapest, specially addressed to cultural matters, a small number of individuals organized a parallel, smaller conference, which was in comparison quite tiny. In fact, it was organized by perhaps 8 or 10 people. And these 8 or 10 people, whatever else may have been the result of this, we managed to bring together in one room in Budapest people who were systematically excluded from the larger conference. Just because it was small, just because it was dependent on private initiative, we managed to bring, for example, Czechoslovakian writers who would never be admitted in an official delegation to Budapest to discuss with us. Well, this was not a concrete project, that was just a preliminary thing, but also the Helsinki Group for Human Rights for the first time held a meeting in a East European country. Now, this you may consider this a symbolic act. You may not see a great thing in this, but I mean, on behalf of just 5 or 6 people having this idea and realizing it, I think it is an advance. So we have to think of this Gulliver thing as a germ of something, of a possibility. And nobody of us is able to fulfill any great expectations, and we deliberately refrained from making a list of all our ideas and all of our projects, because that would be too early in the day to shout at the top of the voices and give the media some food at the risk of then the disappointment afterwards being much bigger. So, I mean, we have a few first steps to make, which we'll have to inquire into institutional, legal possibilities. We are going to find out. We are also considering the possibility of finding an address. I won't say a house, but an address, not only in Western Europe, but also an address, whatever shape it may take, in Eastern Europe. And then we also in a position, I think, to make our views publicly heard, and that, as we know from experience, is not quite without making an impact even on some governments who are proclaiming openly their will to reform and who sometimes in practical terms don't. Thank you.
I'm sure we both are able to answer this question, because Gulliver is a European figure. We were looking for a name, not a formal name, and like Hope or something like this. And the word Europe is so misused, perhaps on the West European side, for everything. We thought it would be helpful for us and others to look for a name who is able to express our wishings, our hopes, and also this part, what I like to explain as a foolish part. We need in Europe, if you look to the politicians, how they act in Copenhagen and other places, some really foolish people who are creative and come with some ideas. And I think this is our best part we can play. Gulliver, that's a person ironic, understandable also by children, still alive. The author between Swift is one of the best in European tradition, controversial, with very ironic proposals to society, as you remember. It's also for us a measure. You also have always to think, don't go, it's very easy to after some years, to be another kind of bureaucracy. But with the name of Gulliver, I think we have a limit. And it's also possible if we need once a ship, to call the ship Gulliver, if it's possible, and now we have the possibility to have a radio station, and if Gulliver is speaking, we expect some attention. And so on and so on. I think it's a name very usual, like to use and useful for us. As you told before, there will be a group of 9 personalities from here who will meet at the end of January in Berlin. And these names and personalities are belonging to Middle and East Europe, Western Europe, and the neutral nations and states. The same groups balance as we are here. And we will try to prepare the perhaps next meeting in Yugoslavia, and the perhaps next meeting, upper next meeting in another place, perhaps in East and West Berlin, if it's possible. You cannot say, sure, we will do it, and we have to look it's possible or not. I think another thing is also to inform the Helsinki conference about our group and what we are doing, and we are waiting then from a response. But besides this, it's a lot to do to prepare these 2 things and to give some substance. And this 4 days was just enough to come to this result. And but you can believe we will go on.